do you think could be the long-term effect if he is here for the long haul? Which clearly
Yeah,
he wants to be.
he wants to be. That's the really big question. I think it depends on what this team with that specific core looks like.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are, whatever time it is for you right now. Just know that you are locked in on To The Point. You guys can find us Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X, whatever they want to call it nowadays. Thank you guys for all your support over the last little while. Just remember, guys, you can find us on YouTube, which is hopefully where you're watching us. And once we get to 750 subs, this will be going out to one of you. Okay? I need to get it off my hands. So can you guys hurry up with that, please? And thank you guys for all your support. Thank you guys for supporting our fantastic guests. Everybody I consider To The Point family. And now we have a new member. The incomparable, the integral, the intellectually inclined when it comes to basketball, Imman Adan. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Would you like to let the people out there know where they could find you?
Yes, check out my Substack that I have. It's called Prose and Clause, and we've got some video stuff along with some written stuff out there. It's me and Asad. You'll probably know him as Swar Lasers if you follow him on Twitter.
Oh, can I see that sweater again? Can you show
Oh
that
yeah,
the people that, please?
this
Yes.
is
Give us some
Dishes and
background on that.
Dimes. Dishes and Dimes. If you guys have not checked it out, please do. It is our podcast. Our
And if you
last
don't,
episode.
something's wrong with you. Go check it out.
Our last episode is part of an ongoing series that we're going to be doing. It is with Tim Donaghy, the disgraced NBA referee, where we got to ask him questions, of course, about the scandal. And we wanted to do a larger series so as not to just have his voice on the topic, but have other people's voices. Because, of course, he's a disgraced referee for a reason. But yeah, we got his insights on it, and we also got to ask him questions that you just want to ask a referee, because when else are you going to get the chance to ask, do you guys hate Canada? Do you guys hate the Raptors? What's the deal? What's happening? So we asked some fun questions like that as well, but also got into the scandal, of course.
Oh my goodness, did you ask him about his mob connections?
We did ask him about his mob connections. We certainly did. We asked about all of that stuff. We also asked questions about current referees like Scott Foster, and maybe, if there was something there as well. So we got into all of that, and yeah, you can check that out.
Oh, that's major. You know what? I'm just gonna click stop right now. You guys should just go check it. Are we even needed here? But no, dead serious, Imman, you do great work.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely amazing. That's why I wanted you here today. It's been how many months in the making, but finally we have connected. So allow me to pick your brain as a Torontonian and a Canadian. How do you feel, and a Raptors fan, how do you feel for bringing home someone from Mississauga? Yes, it's the only time I'll count Mississauga as part of Toronto. Okay. But bringing home RJ Barrett, what is your level of excitement, and what do you think just overall, like the energy, the vibe in the city?
Yeah, I think it's great. Mississauga's finest. I'm gonna be honest. For the longest time, it always felt like people were trying to push these Canadians on the Raptors, right? It was like, oh, trade for Wiggins. Why? Because he's Canadian. Okay, but does he fit with what the team is trying to do? Does he make sense here? There were all of those questions that I had. I never really understood the sort of like, Siakam should go to the Warriors, and then the Raptors get Wiggins, and they'll be happy because they have a Canadian. That never made sense to me. I've always been like, it doesn't matter what their passport is, it matters of how they fit and how they play. Having said all of that, I have to say, like, my opinions on RJ, like, watching him with the Canadian team this summer was great and a lot of fun. And heading into the season, I I have not enjoyed RJ's game on the New York Knicks, but his game in the Toronto Raptors has completely won me over. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, in a bit, but it's been fun to have a Canadian on the team. Like, I've always been like, yeah, who cares what their passport says? But I have to admit, I've really loved having like, oh yeah, he's becoming part of like the faces of Canada. There's so many really good young Canadian talent. I mean, Shay, are you gonna follow him? There's just so much fun young Canadian talent, and it's been really great. And it's also like RJ grew up a Raptor fan. Like, this has been a dream of his, and that's really fun to like know and see. He's grown up around Masai Ujiri and trains with DeMar DeRozan, and like he's been a part of Raptors lore and gets to be a part of the team now, which I think is really dope and really cool for a lot of different levels. I mean, if you're a young Raptor fan right now, think about growing up and getting to play for the team. That's got to be really wild and crazy. And so I love it. I think it's enjoyable, and I think RJ is just so great as well. I'm glad that we're sort of starting the elite young Canadian players with him.
You know what? I got to agree with you. Like, as a Torontonian, like, if I were to be playing in a professional sport and get picked by my hometown team, that's amazing. And here's what I want to get into. Like, psychologically, for him to come to Toronto, and I don't know if you saw the Bell Open Gym little quick clip of him bringing Quickly, and they're in the elevator, and Quickly ain't got no idea what our city's about, right? And Barrett's just showing him around, telling him what's good, where we at, what we do, how we roll, right? I thought that was amazing. And for a player like that, to see him actually come home, right, and play for your hometown team, I think the psychological impact will make you A, try harder, B, work harder, C, provide whatever you can, because D, you feel safe and you know you have that security. Like, you guys out there, none of us are all NBA professional ball players out there. I know some of you guys that watch this have been pros, but it's like getting a job where it's like, oh my God, I'm right where I live. Oh my God, I'm getting paid nicely. Oh my God, they treat me great. Oh my goodness, I get to see my mom every day, right? You know what I mean? It makes you bust your ass. And I think that has translated onto the court in the last 12 games that he's played for the Raptors as of this recording. And he's gone up, not really substantially, but at least in every possible stat that he held within the New York Knicks organization. Now, my dear, would you like to speak about him and his impact on the court statistically or with the team wise from what we've seen in the last 12 games?
Yeah, for sure. There's also one thing that I wanted to add just on top of what you were saying about sort of having a Canadian on the team. For the longest, like, you even think of Pascal's Players Tribune piece or things that DeMar DeRozan or Norman Powell, guys in the past have written.
And Kyle
Lowry.
Yeah.
Yeah, like all these guys calling the city home for them, and like understanding that like in order for Toronto to ingratiate themselves with these players was a really big deal for Raptor fans, right? There's always that sort of inferiority complex of, oh, these guys are going to leave us, oh, they don't like it here. Having a guy on the team that's one of the stars of the team, where this is, where this city is his home, like it is his actual home, and like Quick comes in. Quickly's new to the city. He doesn't know things. RJ's telling him where to go eat. RJ is like bringing him around to things and making him comfortable with the city of Toronto. One of something I remember when Patrick Patterson was first traded here, he was like, I'm so cold. And I was like, how am I supposed to get around in the city? And someone was like, underground path. Like, what are you doing walking around downtown where you can go to the underground path and just like stay indoors the entire time and get to where you need to get?
Yeah,
and
like
it's just like,
with
those
the Red
are things.
Rocket.
Right, yeah. Matt Bonner, the Red Rocket. Like, those are things that, like, outsiders come to the city and might not know, but someone in the city just like, this is their home. And I think for the younger players, because we know this Raptors team is changing, there's going to be tons of new people coming in, having a staple on the team that's one of their teammates, not like a coach or a team manager or anything like that, but an actual teammate to like just be like, no, this is how you do things, like showing these people around the city. I think it's like a really big important thing that this team has not really had. Yes, you've had Jamal McClure and you've had Corey Joseph and things like that, but you've never had one of the young stars of this team be like, this is my city, I'll show you guys around and I'll make you guys feel comfortable because I love it here and I think you guys will as well. Like, I can show an American better around the city than if they have a tour guide and walking around this place, right? Yeah. And I think like having that person on this team is something that the Raptors have never really had before in this same way, and I think that'll be really cool.
Okay, but back to the question, his impact,
impact on the court.
I love your insight with him, his impact off the court.
Off the court, yeah. So his impact on the court, I think
he's got one of these in his hands.
Yeah, I think it's a really important question, and that's something that I've been seeing a lot of people really downplay what it's going to be.
You could go ahead and curse if you want.
I'm trying to like find the words to sort of, a lot of people really downplayed what it's going to be. And I think one thing that we always need to contextualize when talking about a player like RJ Barrett is he's only a year older than Scottie Barnes. We're not talking, he's been in the league for a long time, but he is only a year older than Scottie Barnes. He is an incredibly young player. So this idea that what he's been is who he is, I don't think is valid or fair, especially because of the team that's been around him. He's played with two really heavy ISO guys in Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle. And he's had to find his spots in a different way. On this Raptors team, they're not going to play really heavy ISO basketball. They don't have a Jalen Brunson. They don't have a Julius Randle. So they're never going to operate in that way. Darko Rajakovic's system is going to prioritize cutting. It's going to prioritize catch and shoot threes and spacing and different things like that. And we're already seeing the impact that a player like RJ Barrett can have, because he has not been the guy where, yes, maybe for a while New York has tried to find out if he was going to be that guy, and it just has not panned out, where you give him the ball and he just goes and gets you buckets. He's like the shot creator for himself. He's not really excelled in that role in New York. However, what he does excel in is cutting. What he does excel in is catch and shoot has been sort of down in years past, but first 12 games in Toronto, I think he's shooting over 50% on catch and shoot threes. Like, he is knocking those down. And so if he can provide that for this Raptors team, and so that's why, like, when people have been down on RJ's fit, to me, it's like, we don't really know what he's going to be in Toronto because we've never seen him in the role that Toronto wants him to have. And I think that that's going to be a really interesting thing because he's still growing and he's still developing on his own. What we have seen is he's a serviceable defender, but has levels where he can reach that are higher. We've seen that in spurts with New York. And I think on this Raptors team, he's not going to, again, have to cover for guys like Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle, who are really poor defenders, right? So he's not going to, like, the fit is really different because this is a different style of team than he's had to play with in years past. And so they, like, New York wanted to use him as their OG, where it's like, you got to go stop the guy and you're playing with two really weak defenders on both sides of you. And that's just not RJ Barrett's game. But RJ Barrett is the best cutter on this team. Also, losing a guy like Pascal Siakam means that you're losing a ton of your not just shot creation, but your free throw getting. Your like, and so getting a guy like RJ Barrett, who's such an elite driver, like, you lose a lot with losing OG Anunoby, sure, especially defensively, but just focusing in on the offensive end, something that RJ provides that OG just didn't is those drives, is getting inside and being a bully in that same way. OG was getting better at it. I thought his finishing improved tenfold this year than in years past, but still RJ Barrett is better at that specific part of his game. RJ Barrett's cutting is also elite. And so if you have this team that has great ball movement, having the ability to do that, and his catch and shoot is going to be something that he needs to do. In order for RJ to truly fit on this team, we're going to need to see the shooting continue as it has through the first 12 games. He's got to still be able to space the floor because that's what this team needs. And that's not something that he's consistently done, but he has done it for one of his first 4 or 5 years in the league. Can he continue to do that? He's shown he has the ability to. We just need to see it for longer.
May I step in here?
Yeah, sorry, that was a lot of words.
just like during our warm up, where both of us were doing this, you're like Justin Timberlake, and I'm like Joey Fat One. Okay, we are totally in sync here. because from a coach's standpoint, what I see from RJ Barrett is what he's been able to do is he's able to, like you said, cut to the rim. He'll drive. There's no question about that. He's a spot-up shooter, so he's creating space. He's also creating for other players offensively due to that, which the Raptors were lacking before because everybody was pretty stagnant. It'll be one guy in the post and four guys looking for a three-point shot, which was very stagnant, but he brings a different level to the Raptors offense, especially considering the keys to the kingdom have been handed to Scotty Barnes, and Scotty's going to be dealing with double teams consistently every night from the other teams that are coming after him. And I honestly think that, like I said, from a coach's standpoint, what he's able to provide can unlock a lot for the rest of the Raptors. Now, based on that, let me ask you another question before we get out of here. Okay? What do you think the long-term effect RJ Barrett can have on the Raptors? Like you said, he's only 1 year older than Scotty. What do you think could be the long-term effect if he is here for the long haul? Which clearly he wants to be.
He wants to be. That's the really big question. I think it depends on what this team with that specific core looks like.
BBQ.
Because we know. Sorry.
BBQ.
BBQ. Yeah. Because it really depends on, can RJ space the floor? Can RJ? Because you mentioned it. Scotty's going to be getting a ton of doubles, and RJ goes from, at least for a good chunk of those first 12 games, he was the tertiary option because Pascal Siakam was still here. Pascal Siakam draws a ton of doubles, and Scotty was getting those looks. We saw it. We see how the defense has shifted in those first few games with Pascal being gone, where now Scotty's being honed in on in the same way. And so it's like, okay, RJ gets bumped up, and now he's got to be the secondary scorer. How does he look in that role? Can he continue to grow in that? Can he be a guy that you trust to create for himself and for others in that way? Like, can he continue to improve in those areas? Can he continue to space the floor? Because we know what RJ is good at, but I don't want to put a ceiling on a player who's only 23 years old, and we've already seen glimpses of how good he can be. But to me, all of it comes down to, what does BBQ look like? I think Immanuel Quickley's here for the long haul. I think that's sort of stamped and approved.
RJ just because he's just like, he's like the Energizer Bunny.
Sorry, but RJ, just because we already know what his contract's looking like. Scotty can sign an extension as early as, I think, the end of this season, because this is year 3. So our Quickly's gonna get his next contract. So the time is really ticking. I know everyone's like, oh, rebuild, and now you're gonna tank and get players. That's not necessarily true. These guys are all going to very well be on their second contract very, very soon. And so the time is now. And I think it's, how do you guys gel and how do you guys fit? Masai said in his press conference that he tried to be patient with the last iteration of this team and realized he can't be as patient as he was in years past. The NBA has changed. And I think the time is really ticking on, like, what does Barrett look like with these guys? How long can you sort of throw this out before deciding, hey, do we make some moves and bring people in? And I think RJ Barrett has been sort of that piece, just depending on his three-point shooting, because IQ is going to be here for the long haul, just because the Raptors need that point guard, and his fit along Scotty is just more seamless than I would say RJ Barrett's is. But I definitely think there's room for RJ Barrett to be here long term. It just depends on, what does this squad look like with Jakob back? How does this team play out? And is there enough spacing, or are we still having those conversations? Can RJ be your secondary scorer, or are we still having those questions? All of that really, I think, determines and decides what this team looks like long term, because their contracts are coming up, and this team is going to get very expensive. Even without the Fred VanVleet and the Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby contracts, this team can still get very, very expensive very quick, and those questions are going to start to come up.
We did save some money by getting rid of Siakam. Did I say
certainly, but like, you're gonna start paying everybody. Like, Scotty's contract is coming up not that long from now,
give
and IQ's contract is tomorrow.
Give Scotty the bank. Drive a brick
for sure
to his door.
For sure.
and give him a
for sure. But like
card.
that's why RJ becomes the question mark. Because if you're bringing up the Brinks truck for Scotty Barnes and for IQ, you start to get like, okay, is this team good enough, or do we still need more scoring? Do we still need more shooting? And if that's the case, then who becomes expendable from that crew? And unfortunately, just because everything is about fitting around side Scotty, and if RJ's not the spacer that we need him to be, if he's not the defender, if he doesn't reach the heights that he certainly can, he, in my opinion, becomes the one that we're talking about moving more so than IQ, and just in terms of the heavier contracts on the team.
You know what? I might disagree with you a little bit on that one.
Yeah.
I think I know we're in sync, but now we're Backstreet Boys. We split up.
That was good. That was good.
But I think the Raptors will do what they can to keep RJ Barrett. Based on his energy on the floor, I think they will, because there are going to be moves made soon that we are all speculating of. You guys make sure to tune in for the next few episodes, because we will be covering that here on To The Point. But there can be moves, and like on our last episode, the guest Beyond the Locker Room, he did say the Raptors were trading for cap space. Well, maybe this is the reason why they are trading for cap space, so they can lock in these two players, Scotty Barnes and RJ Barrett. Scotty basically playing a point forward, RJ basically playing a guy that could create his own shot, bringing energy, knowing when to step back, knowing when to get in the paint, right? But allowing Scotty to be who Scotty's going to be. You know what I mean? I said it last year. If Scotty Barnes develops a three-point shot, he can be unstoppable. He developed a three-point shot. Now, all I need to see from him is being a high post forward. The game is over. Forget about Embiid 70. We'll see Scotty absolutely destroy. He'll have every part of his game available, and RJ will be able to feed off of that. But at the same time, it's symbiotic.
That's the hope.
At the same time, it's symbiotic. Scotty will be able to feed off of what RJ can do. So
that's the hope.
Welcome home, RJ. Before we get out,
that's the hope. I'm so down for RJ. I just want to say I'm so down for RJ staying. It's just,
I wanted to hear your final
that 3-point shot.
Get out of here.
I know. I was just thinking, like, I don't want it to seem like, oh, RJ's definitely gone. It's just, if this doesn't work out, and I'm not talking at the end of this year or at the end of next year, probably at the end of next year, if we're still having these conversations about you need a secondary scorer next to Scotty, you need, like, if it's the same conversations that New York was having about RJ 2 years ago, like, if that sort of continues, then we're having that conversation. But if that's not the case, if RJ's continuing what we saw in the first 12 games, if that continues out for the next 2 years, then yeah, I think that this is a really great trio of guys. I think BBQ is here to stay forever. It's just, what are the conversations that we're having in 2 years? Not even at the end of this year or at the end of next. I think it's like at the end of next year, 2 years time. What are the conversations that we're having there?
Imman, can you stop saying BBQ, because I'm getting hungry.
sorry.
It's
just easier to just combine their names.
I know, right? Or you could say IRS and make me think of taxes. But
which the Raptors are going to have a lot of questions about if they're keeping all of them. IRS might be more apt.
But you know what? This has been an amazing conversation, and I really appreciate you for coming on. Like, it's like I'm saying that straight from the heart. And now you're an official member of the To The Point family. I hope you guys enjoyed what Imman had to say, because that hit right up here. If it didn't hit you and it went up here, I'm sorry. You might be a fair weather Raptors fan, or maybe have a lower IQ of basketball knowledge. But thank you. Is there anything left you would like to say to the lovely ladies and gentlemen out there that are watching us right now?
No, I plugged it earlier. If you're interested in the Tim Donaghy piece, do check that out on Dishes and Dimes. Like I said, we are looking to make that a longer series, and I want to cover some more bigger stories in the NBA. Dishes and Dimes. So you can
on YouTube,
on any of your podcast feeds. No, on any podcast feed. So you can see that. We might be putting it on YouTube. We do have video of it, but not yet. You can find it on like iTunes and Apple, Spotify, any of your podcast listening devices. It'll be on there. And then Pros and Class, because I'm hoping to have some stuff out next week.
Okay, and we will be promoting that right here on To The Point.
Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much. And guys, if you are watching, you know I also consider you To The Point family. And I appreciate everything. Remember, get the 750. Go, somebody get the sweater. I got so many other stuff to give out. Like I'm like my room is getting tight. Okay, I have so many things for you guys out there. Okay, so on behalf of myself and the intellectually inclined Imman Adan and the rest of the To The Point family, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night, and peace.